Shadashadhyayini Ambatvanusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rutra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita tatkatena manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidussura suragana Devaya Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. So, let's do 5 verses starting with verse number 34 of the 4th chapter. And just follow after me. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha yajñātva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutanyasheshena drakshyasyatmanyato mayi apichedasi papebhyaha sarvebhyah papakrittamaha sarvam jnanaplavenaiva vrijinam samtarishyasi yathaidhamsi samidhogni bhasmasat kurute arjuna jnanagni sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute tatha nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsiddhi tat swayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. Pardon me. So 2 very often quoted verses in this section. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha, which is what we will start with today. And then of course the very famous one, nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate, which in fact is the kind of like the motto of this Swamiji's ashram in Sailorsburg. You find this very often, so we'll go into that. So very interesting to see the behind it. On this verse number 34, we went over this last class, but for some reason the class didn't register. There were some technical problems with it. So I proposed to spend a little bit more time revising it. And there's been a couple of weeks anyway, so you wouldn't mind doing that. Pardon me. So if you saw the trend of these verses, There, verse number 24 was the one that pointed out the goal of all human beings. And that was pointed out by the word Brahma Karma Samadhina. So the one whose samadhi is natural. This is what is called Sahaja Samadhi. So the samadhi is not, samadhi means whose conclusions, whose way of looking at life, etc., is in keeping with the truth enunciated by the Shastra. And not only is it in keeping with it, it becomes natural, its own. Because right now what happens is, in the beginning, our feeling is that this is what the book says. Or more than the book, this is what Shastra says. But I don't say it. So when there is in fact a complete union between what is said by the Shastra and what my mind says as I naturally live my life, then this is what is called Brahma Karma Samadhi. This is the one where you have Jivan Mukti, where you do not have two opposing viewpoints. So the opposing points is the one which is what the Shastra says and one which is my experience. And they are opposite to each other. The Shastra says that you are unlimited. and my experience says I'm very, very limited. So there is a discrepancy between them. And so the Shastra also tells us how to resolve it. And it says, no, just because you are having limited experiences doesn't mean you are not unlimited. So you have to understand that. How is it this? Just like the room space example is a good one. That even though at first, supposing the room space doesn't know that I'm total space and behaves totally as I'm a room space, gets upset if there's too much smoke in the air, you feel like, I'm at the wrong, why are people abusing me? I should be in a temple room where there's no, it's very beautiful and so on and so forth. Then one is told that, you're just making a false assumption. There is no separate space. It's the same space which is you. And at first I don't understand it, but once I do, when you do, your prarabdha karma, in other words, as long as the walls are still there, will still create a feeling that I am a limited space. But it is just, this is what is called badhita anuvritti. This is an important thing, we will study at some point. So badhita anuvritti means that even though the walls are still enclosing me, but they are not fooling me anymore. In fact, I am enclosing all walls. My drishti is towards the space. There's only one space, and it is formless. And all forms are enclosed by me. In fact, they don't affect me. Once this is clear, then it doesn't matter whether I am enclosed or not. If tomorrow the walls come down because it is being remodeled, fine, I remain the same. If it doesn't continue, it remains for a long time, doesn't matter to me, because I am already free. So the presence of limitations is not a barrier toward understanding. This is what Vedanta says. But first, you have to precisely know that you are unlimited. After that, the limitations no longer affect me, my conclusions per se. Nevertheless, there is a difference, because right now what happens is there is a kind of like a stage of development. First, I don't know anything about in unlimitedness. Then I struggle with the unlimitedness. I understand it. And then I have doubts that, the Vedanta says this, but my experience is, how come I'm having problems? Vedanta says I'm not supposed to have any problems. Then I have to go through and find out, what about the problems? And so there's a lot of teaching for this. All of this is all going to come. That how do you look at problems to see why they are not affected by you? They're not affecting you. You have to see that. And so when you see all of that, there you have a fusion between what the Shastra says and what my experiences are. I do not take the experiences to be real. I don't take the limitations of the experiences to be real. But once I am free, I can tolerate them, no problems. So this is the verse number 24 that started the whole topic. Then in verse number 25, 26, 27 and all the same, yajnas were given. And yajnas means that for me to fully understand the truth of the verse number 24, Brahma Karma Samadhi, I need to improve my attitude and my thinking. It is exactly like for you to understand a very subtle scientific principle. You have to prepare yourself by taking some elementary courses, then finding out what else is necessary. You have to understand mathematics, you have to understand physics, elementary math, and slowly you become aware of it. Then when you are ready, when the teaching is given, you say, yes, that's it. So that is the purpose of the yajnas. So these were called dravya yajnas. All the dravya yajnas were given starting with verse number 25, meaning that they are formful things that you need to do. Devaihi daivam eva apare yajnam yoginaha paryupasate Brahma agnau apare yajnam yajnena eva upajuhvati shotradini, etc., etc. There was a long list of, I think, 11 different yajnas that were given. Then we come to so verse number 33 was where it said that all the yajnas are for the final yajna. They are not to be done for themselves. And here the beautiful example given by Swami Paramarthananda was, I'll repeat it, that for example, supposing you decide to have you make some new dish for yourself to eat. You have a dal and sambar, and then you want to make some side dishes, some vegetables along to go with it. You made a dosa, and so you have to go and find the ingredients. You keep on doing all of that. But the ingredients and cooking and assembling and so on is not just for cooking. You brought everything and then you say, okay, I'm done. No. They are to actually transpose that into something you can enjoy. Eating is the final yajna for all the preparations that you were doing before. Similarly, all the dravya yajnas that were talked about end up in something different. So this is what was Numbers 33 said. Shreyan dravyamayat yagyat jnana yajna parantapa sarvam karma akhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. He says, Arjuna, please understand this, that really out of all these yajnas, the jnana yajna, and so here the jnana yajna is like eating your food. There's no comparison. This is the best, very obvious. And in fact, all the other yajnas, they culminate in the eating. So similarly, sarvam karma. So when you say sarvam karma, it means all the karma yajnas, all the dravya yajnas. Akhilam partha, without any fail, jnane parisamapyate. So this is the very basic principle of Bhagavad Gita, that karma is not an independent goal by itself. It is meant to improve your understanding that you are unlimited. These are the various intermediate courses that you are taking. And now the final course is being discussed, which is in verse number 34. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadachinaha. He says that please understand that which is to be known by prostrating the wise, by asking proper questions, and by service to them. Those wise people who have the vision of the truth will teach you this vision, this knowledge. This is the one. So here, what needs to be appreciated is that jnana yajna is different from the karma yajna. Why is it different? It is fundamentally different. Why is it fundamentally different? Because the karma yajnas or the dravya yajnas that were talked about before require just you. Your conclusion, your desire that I want to do puja, I want to do Ganesha puja, going to the temple and doing the puja. And even if you don't go to the temple, having a Ganesha murti in your house, and even if you don't have a murti, just making a murti in your mind, but all it requires, so that's the thing, you don't even need a Ganesha murti. You just do Ganesha stuti. That's enough. You can just close your eyes and just think about, you don't need anything else. You just need you. This is not true of Jnana Yajna. Jnana Yajna cannot be done by yourself. It requires some external aid. It's very much like, you can see your hand and many parts of the body, but you cannot see your own eyes without looking at a mirror. You need an external thing. You cannot just sort of say, I'm going to do this, that. You can't do that. You can't look at your face. You cannot look at. You need some reflecting surface. This is the specialty of Jnana Yajna. And so Jnana Yajna here means that you need to find someone where you need to find something that will give you an accurate reflection of who you are. This is different from Karma Yajna. So this should be appreciated. So here Krishna gives the method of obtaining Jnana Yajna. Okay? So first of them, the most important one is to be fortunate enough or to have the occasion to follow the right Shastra. Now, what do you mean by follow the right Shastra? What is a right Shastra? The right Shastra, the school of thought which is considered to be the correct one, the right one, is the one that deals with Adhyatma Vidya, whose purpose is to show yourself. If there is a Shastra that is engaged in showing God or afterlife, then that's not an Adhyatmika Vidya Shastra. That's okay, it's not as though it's bad, but this is not what we are talking about. It turns out that for showing that I am unlimited, I need that kind of a Shastra that is primarily engaged in showing the unlimitedness of myself. That's the thing. This is the right Shastra. And besides the Advaita Vedanta, we do not find any right Shastra. It's not as though we are superior or anything like that. We just don't find it. There are people who masquerade it as such. And the one that comes closest to it, which is still a masquerading, is Buddhism. And Buddhism also has, there is a difference between masquerading and the reality. And they keep you a long ways. In the end, they also fall short because they don't follow the principles of Vedanta. And until you find the principles of Vedanta, there's only one image of yourself. And so that has to be very precisely given. And in fact, any religion, any school of thought that starts with the premise that Vedas don't know, then we have a problem. And Buddhism started with saying that we don't want, you can figure it out yourself. Just follow me. And then you have so many variations. You have Ramanujan's Vishishta Advaita. And you have so many different things. Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Islam, and so on and so forth. But they are not Adhyatma Vidya Shastra. What can we do? So Krishna says, listen Arjuna, Jnana Yoga, Jnana Yajna is different. And what do you mean by different? Here are the methods. You have to find the right Shastra. And another thing, so the next thing is, so this is all given in verse number 34, I will close it, that Shastra, first of all, is not easy to understand. Because what happens if you tell someone you're unlimited? What will happen? It's very good. You'll go to these lectures. Supposing there is a lecture on Flint Center. And this is what happens. It's not as though I'm making it up. You have all these new age gurus who come in and so on and so forth. And so you go to a lecture and says, you know, you're unlimited and so on and so forth. What's the end of that? You'll come back and he says, it looks kind of, sounds nice, but I don't know, how can he say that? And so really speaking, it's very difficult to understand. Not difficult because it is something which is secret, although it is called a secret. Vedanta is called a secret, rahasyam. It is called a secret, but it is not a secret because it is being kept from you, but you do not understand it. You don't understand it. You don't look upon it as praptasya praptihi, as something that is already done and I have to understand. You don't look at it that way. You look upon life as a apraptasya praptihi. You know that famous example of, you've already heard of that, but just to remind you in the context of this, there was this guy who was a diamond merchant and he used to go between Bombay and Surat. Surat is a place in Gujarat that does a lot of diamond polishing and making and so on and so forth. So this guy used to get diamonds and he used to go to Surat by train overnight. And so this very famous thief, not a famous, I mean a very rich thief, he had, he used to swap a lot of people, so on and so forth. He found out about his schedule, that he used to go and he always travels in a two-seater. There's a berth above and a berth below. You've seen that in India, only the small one. And so he found out that he's going on that. So he also got into it. And now he struck up a conversation with him. He knew that he's carrying a bag of diamonds. He was waiting for him to go to sleep so that he can take it out. So before that, the thief himself went to the bathroom to change for the night. And then he came out, and then this fellow also went, but he didn't search his suitcase by then. He waited for him to go to sleep. And he went to sleep, he took out his suitcase, looked through everything, and then put his hand below the pillow of the person so that it doesn't wake him up, and tried to see if he's there. Just, looked at his bedding and so on and so forth. And the fellow, nothing happened. Then in the morning they both got up and the thief also went to the bathroom to relieve himself. Then he changed. Then this fellow also went to the bathroom. Finally the thief said, "Sir, I have lost. You've won. But just tell me where did you keep it?" He says, "I kept it under your pillow." That's the only obvious place, because I know you are a thief. I know you're going to look at all the places. Where else could I find? So the Vedanta is exactly like that. We have it, the complete freedom is me, but I don't get it. I don't get it. So the Vedanta is a rahasyam, which is not easy to understand. Why? Because I am fully convinced that's not me. I am a miserable person with lots of problems. That cannot be me. Don't even talk about it. Where else can I find it? Which guru should I go to so that I can listen to him? This is the problem. So, the second thing that you need, so first of all, here are the ingredients. One is you need to follow the right Shastra. The second ingredient is someone that can open the keys to the Shastra. You need a guru. You need a guru. Is what we were talking about. I think about this in the previous class also. So if you look at the, because I'm from Punjab and a lot of my friends are Sikh, and who knows, my son may get married to a Sikh girl, so I have to be careful. But really, if you look at Sikhism, it is a distorted Vedanta. And one of the biggest distortions of Sikhism is that they said there are 10 gurus, and the last guru said, after me there will be no one else. Problems. So what do? There's no guru. So you have a Guru Granth Sahib that you can study. Studying a book doesn't do anything. Ultimately it falls also. And so because this is a Chaitana Vastu, you need a Chaitana Vastu communicating with another Chaitana Vastu. You cannot just do it by... Books can be done to eliminate certain doubts, but the very basic teaching has to be done live. And there is no guru, because there's already been. So it becomes more like a social order where they have mandirs, gurdwaras, and people come and pray and so on and so forth. But wait, it's not possible. Anyway, so this is the thing. The second one ingredient is the right teacher. Then the third one is also another one side thing to the guru. So this is actually interesting because, in fact, if you look at so here, if you just go to the second line of the verse number 34, he says, Upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. So here, there are two ingredients that are talked about for the guru. So we'll come back to the first line later. Because I'm on the topic of the guru, let me finish that. He says that they will give you, please approach the right guru, and they will instruct you as to your unlimitedness. And what are the properties of the guru? Jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. So two things are talked about. One is jnaninaha. Jnaninaha means who has seen the very truth and the logic of, who has understood the logic as explained by the Shastra. Shastragyaha. So this is why this has to be learned from a person who has himself or herself gone through all the steps of understanding. Here, one thing to see about, I may have talked about this earlier, that our acharyas have said that the important transformation for a student is to go from what is called becoming from a mumukshu to a jigyasu. So let me explain what those words mean. Mumukshu to a jigyasu. Mumukshuhu is, this is a sananta in Sanskritam. It's called moksha ichchuhu. It's called mumukshuhu. So moksha ichchu means one that who wants to understand the disease instead of the symptoms of the disease. That's what happens sometimes when we have problems, some physical problems, some skin problems or something. Then you immediately look for some solution. You put some ointment, and the interesting thing is that the ointment does help. Then you say, good, now I got the solution. But it comes back again. Then you put some more ointment, more stronger ointments, and so on. Finally, you get tired of it. And he says, I am tired. I want to understand, what am I doing wrong? Why am I getting this problem? And I'm going, not instead of just visiting Walgreens, I go to a real doctor and discuss with him. So, the mumukshu is the one, everybody wants moksha. Whether you know it or not, everybody wants to have freedom from dukkha. This is very obvious. We don't have to teach that. What we have to see is the way we go about removing our dukkha. And usually we remove our dukkha by overeating. This is what happens. You have a lot of problems, this, that, or the other, emotional problems, this, that, or the other. So you say, you know what, let me just have a full meal. And then and Ishvara is also, he's very clever. He's given you some very simple things to do. That's why they say that annadanam is a very important danam. Even people go hungry, to give them something to eat is very important. Anyway, so you relieve your problems symptomatically. But then it is only symptomatic. As soon as after 15 minutes or so, then the meal is over. This is what they say in Vedanta, that says that the satisfaction that you get from eating lasts 15 minutes. Even less than that. Because immediately, this is what happens. And I remember my mother was alive. So in India, of course, you have cooks and so on and so forth. So in the morning, we'll have breakfast. And while we're having breakfast, the cook will say, Mem Sahab, what should we cook for lunch? I used to feel, hey, we're having breakfast. But she says, he has to go to he has to do some other jobs to do. So immediately while eating one, we have to plan for the next one. And so this is called symptom head. So everybody is a mumukshu. We all have problems, but we solve it in a symptomatic manner. This is called a mumukshu. To see a doctor, one has to become a jigyasu. Jigyasu means jnatumichu, natu mokshumichu. Jnatumichu means, so what is the disease? Why am I getting problems in my life? Is there a way for me to become completely free from it? Is there a possibility? Is there someone who can help me? This is what is called jnatumichu. And so to move from just a casual enquiry into a sustained enquiry, it requires finding the right person and following the right person. And so now going back to finishing up the definition of a guru is one who has gone through the process of becoming not a mumukshu, but a jigyasu. And personally for me, I think that what happens was that when I met Swami Chinmayananji, he gave me enough of a glimpse of the reality that I was very inspired, extremely inspired. And I started to follow Swami Chinmayanan. Whenever he would come here, I would get involved in getting his talks arranged. And he would come and visit me at my home. And so I was close to him for about 2 years. But I was not getting enough detail that I wanted, because his talks were public talks, and I had already heard them before. And so I wanted some more depth, but Ishvara provided me with the right person to give me the depth, Swami Dayanandji. When I met Swami Dayanand, I could tell not only does he have the detailed knowledge about the Shastra, but he has the willingness and the time to teach, which Swami Chinmayananda didn't have. So it's all Ishvara's doing, really. You give him the right person. And now the same thing has happened. Now I have discovered Swami Maheshanandji, his books, even though he's taken Mahasamadhi. But by now, I think his works speak to me in so much detail that I am able, and it's all my own growth, really, because if I had read it maybe 20 years ago, I may not have been able to appreciate it. So it's all, it's all Ishvara's doing, really. Anyway, so going back to it, Jnaninaha, the word Jnaninaha means who has the ability to understand the Shastra and turn a mumukshu into a jigyasu. This is the important one. Then the second word used for the guru is called Tattvadarshinaha. Tattvadarshinaha means, because you can have a guru who has complete understanding of the Shastra but does not have the direct vision of how the life is still separated from the vision of the Shastra. So he says not only should be a jnani, he should be a tattvadarshi. That means that you should see in front of you. So this is what is called a Brahmanistha. You have to be that. And I am not at that point yet. I have to be honest with you. But I have resolved two things. One is that I do have lots of glimpses of the truth daily, not continuously, but I have it. And I also know the way to improve. I can see the progress in my life because I have arranged my life in such a way that this becomes the most important thing for me. So even though I'm not a Brahmanistha, I'm sincere in bridging the gap between the Shastric knowledge and Ishvara will tell me whether I'll do it in this life or next life. Who cares? I'm done. I feel completely at the mercy of Ishvara. So there is a difference between Jnaninaha and Tattvadarshinaha. Swami Dayanand used to say that. He said, in fact, in the Mundaka Upanishad also the same thing comes up in all the Upanishads. So he says, there's a very famous and a very important verse in Mundaka Upanishad, which goes like this: Pariksha lokan karmachitan ayat brahman nasti akritaha kritena tat vijnanartham gurumeva vigachet shotriyam brahmanishtam. This is the verse. He says, Pariksha lokan karmachitan. Exactly the same in the Upanishad. He says that please examine your life and find out if the cessation of problems can be done through karma, by applying, ointments in your life. Figure it out. And please come to the conclusion that it is impossible. You cannot solve the problems of your life by doing karma, by doing different things. Then what? So he says, Pariksha lokan, karmachitan lokan pariksha, having examined the entire set of experiences that are available through actions. Pariksha lokan, karmachitan, Ayat Brahmanaha. He says the person gains a certain wisdom that ayat Brahmanaha na kritaha no, sorry, parikshalokan karmachitan ayat Brahmanaha nasti akritena akritaha kritena. Praptasya prapti means that please understand that you are after unlimitedness, infinity, complete moksha. Please understand. You are after that. And that infinity cannot be gained by adding new numerals onto what you already have. Supposing you say, I'm going to reach infinity. This is bad mathematics. You can say infinity, I'm going to keep on accumulating more money, more and more money. And then I'll have so much money that I won't need anything. You know what happens when you're in the process of accumulating money? You become more fearful. Now what happens? Taxes, this, that, or the other. Cannot do it. Akritaha kritena nasti. Then what do? Tat vijnanartham gurumeva vigachet. You have to go to a live person. What kind of a live person? Brahman, Shotriyam Brahmanishtam. So the Shotriyam term is called Jnaninaha and Brahmanishtam is called Tattvadarshinaha. Same thing. So a Tattvadarshinaha is one. And so here, one thing which we see, the lifestyle should be committed. You have to examine the person. What kind of a lifestyle does he have? As I was telling you before, that in all other knowledges, the teacher's life and the knowledge that he or she teaches doesn't have anything to do with each other. You can go to, a teacher of physics in Cornell University, and the person his morals are just gone. He cheats on his wife, he does this, all kinds of problems and so on. But you say, you know what, I don't care. As long as he comes and teaches me physics, that's all I care about. He's a very good physics teacher also. So you are okay in that assumption. Not in Vedanta. Not in Vedanta. You have to see what drives the person. Is he shaping his or her life in the same way that he's teaching? And if that's not consistent, then this definition does not apply. Jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha does not apply. Anyway, so this is the second line which defines the teacher. Now something defines you. Because you remember that the elements of the Jnana Yajna is you and someone who guides you. So you also have to participate in being guided. Because you can, if you just, supposing you look at a mirror, then you don't even look at it. You just look at someplace else. You have to face, you also have to face. So you have some responsibility. This is why this Sahana Vavatu is such an important Vedic prayer. It's a Vedic prayer. Anytime there is a class, you must start with this. Sahana Vavatu. So there is a pair, me and my teacher, because both are essential. You have to do certain parts, I have to do certain parts. I have to be very precise in my language. I have to also show up for classes. I cannot just take off for flimsiest of reasons. And you also have to do the same thing. Sahana vavatu, sahanao bhunattu, sahati viryam karavavai. May you make both of us. And then ma vidvisha vahai. May we not quarrel with each other. maybe have some Shraddha. That will all be talking about Pranipatena Pratiprashnena Sevaya. So now let's go to that. So, if you look at the student, tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So there are two basic qualities of the students that are being pointed out. One is jigyasa. As I said, from a mumukshu who becomes jigyasu, means the desire to know. If you don't have the desire to know, in fact it is said in our Shastra, please do not teach Vedanta to someone that does not have the desire to know. Don't do it. In fact, it is papam. It is not the proper thing to do. You cannot just go around cocking somebody that, hey, in fact, I just remember that when I first came back from the ashram after 2.5 years, and I rejoined the social life and so on. And my mind and my whole thinking was full of what I had learned in the last 2.5 years of intense study, really intense study. I mean, I had 2 master's degrees before that. I have a master's in computer science from Berkeley, and I have a master's in business administration from Santa Clara. And both of them were very intense, but nothing compared to the 2.5 years that I studied with Swamiji. Nothing compared to it. This was because of my own desire and the fact that I wanted to get as much of it as possible in that time. So my mind was full of things from it. So when I would meet someone, then they'll say, so where were you in the last 2.5 years? So I was anxious to unload. And so even some people that, were carrying a glass of wine or something, I would say, oh, this is what we studied and so on. And what I didn't know was I should not have opened my stupid mouth with these people. No way. They cannot. They're not the right people. And I stopped doing it after a while. I'll say, oh, I was just, doing something. It's okay, nothing much. It was kind of some interest. I will tell people I was studying Sanskrit. That everybody can understand. Sanskrit, oh, that's nice. So you know some Sanskrit? I used to say yes. Then I could even brag about it a little bit. And then it was a nice conversation. But the moment you tell someone this is all about finding yourself, they'll say, what? What are you talking about? And not only that, so this is what is called the desire to know. So I have an older sister who is about 3 years older than I am. And she lives in Delhi. And I think out of all the people, she's the one who's really closest to me. We are soul brothers and sisters. As we grew up and so on and so forth, we've always had a lot of love for each other. And when I went to this ashram, I was always thinking of my sister. That when I come out, I'm going to really just tell her what I've learned. And it'll be so wonderful. Do you know what? Highly disappointed. And she would also be, it's not as though she would not, she did not as though she poo-pooed the whole thing. She would say, so what did you learn? What did you do? And so on and so forth. And then, and this has happened many times, not just once. So I'd say, sit down. Sit down, I want to tell you something. And she'll say, well, just a minute. Let me give instructions to the cook. And then she'd say, okay, now tell me. Then in the meantime, a phone call comes. She says, I have to take this phone call. So I'm waiting. After the phone call, she said, oh, so where were we? Oh, so you took this Bhagavad Gita and so on and so forth. I said, then something else happened. I said, this is not going to happen. And I actually went through with many times because she's not ready for this. She doesn't see that as a problem. So the first qualifications for a student is you must have a desire to know. This is why, really speaking, advertisement and all of these things don't work. If I start a new class, I just say there's a new class. And if people wants to come, then it's okay. But you cannot just do this. It's not for everyone. Not possible. So this is number one. The second one is, so one is called jigyasa. The second one is called vinaya. Vinaya means humility. Humility. Why is humility important? Because even if you have a desire to know, unless you have some respect for the teacher, it's not going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. It's like you'll say, okay, I've got a couple of classes and I can come to you. You better teach me the whole thing. And then it has some value to it, but I don't have I'm not sure that this person really knows what he's talking about. Even now, this is so interesting that I get, even this doesn't happen with students that have been with me for a while, but some of the newer students, they'll say, have you heard of this Swami and his lectures? So I'm very polite because really basically I'm done. I'm done. I'm not looking for any new teachers. Whatever it is that's this now, I just have to absorb it. Ishvara has given me enough things. So it's not as though I have a desire to now, okay, now the people give me books to read and so on. All that means is that I don't know what you know, but there's some other stuff that I need to do. So that really doesn't, you need to have complete Shraddha that I'm capable of guiding you with the help of the Shastra. This is the humility. And the verse, the first part of the verse has three aspects of, one, by the way, one aspect of the jigyasa. So there are three things talk about. Pranipatena, pariprashnena, sevaya. The middle one, pariprashnena, is for jigyasa, for gyatum ichcha. Right? So two extremes are to be avoided. One extreme is that you accept everything that I say without any questioning. That also doesn't help. The other extreme is that you doubt everything that I say. Then you shouldn't even be here. So the dialogue of question and answer is the right way. And in fact, all of our books are the same way. Gita also, exactly the same thing. In Krishna and Arjuna, there is a dialogue. And so Arjuna has complete Shraddha in Krishna, but doesn't understand it yet. And instead of saying, I don't know if you're capable of teaching me, it says, Krishna, I know you are. In fact, in the second chapter, he says, what was the name of, he says that you are as though you are, it is very interesting, I forget the exact verse, but Arjuna says you are as though confusing me. This is an important thing. You're not really confusing me, but I don't get what you're telling. That's okay. This is called pariprashna. That the answers, the questions also have to be asked in the right spirit. So the jigyasa is represented by the word pariprashna. Vinaya, the humility, is represented by the two words pranipatena and sevaya. So let's look at those two words. So pranipatena means that you have to have the right attitude, both physical attitude as well as the mental attitude, that that shows that you have shraddha towards the teaching. Why? Because this is not easy to get. It requires sustained commitment between the both of us. So, it is not just a namaskara, physical namaskara. You don't have to do that. I tell Sri Ram not to please lie on the floor and do this as he does. They're not necessary. But just more of a mental attitude that I know that these are good things that he's teaching, and I want to really understand it better with some more questions. And so this is called pranipatena. Then, one interesting thing I forgot to tell you about pariprashnena. And I think I mentioned this in the last time also, and let me make this again. So, Swami Paramarthananda, I was also looking at his notes and so on. He pointed out, he says, there are different gurus. Gurus are not all the same. Like, for example, there are gurus who inspire you. This is what we all talked about last time also. So there are inspiring gurus. And I think from my perspective, Swami Chinmayananda was an inspiring guru. He really inspired me. His strong personality and the way he came about and so on was very impressive. Very impressive. Very, very inspiring. But then an inspiring guru may not be the teaching guru. Or there could be a wise person where you just want to give your commitment to it from time to time, but really don't want to stay with that person. So there are different kind of gurus and so on. So he gave an example. He says that if you look at the Shankaracharyas, beautiful example. It's real life. So the Shankaracharyas from Sringeri and all of these people, they're highly accomplished people. They know the Shastra and they know and they can advise people and so on. So here's a problem. Shankaracharyas don't have the time to teach because they have a job to do. They have thousands of people that come in and see them. And they have an administrative ability and so on and so forth. How are they going to have a Gita class, every day? If you look at Swami Paramarthananda, I was talking to him, he teaches 9 classes every week. And what a commitment that person has. He doesn't want to travel anywhere. We would love to have him here for a week, but no, he doesn't want to come. Why? Because his commitment is to teaching and his classes are precise. Wonderful. Shankaracharyas, that is not the case. And Swami Paramarthananda says that even if you were to look at the log of people that come to see the Shankaracharya, you will see people saying, my daughter is not getting married. And she's already turning 25. Can you please suggest some prayers to me, though I can influence her life? Or they'll say, somebody has sued me and I need some help on litigation. So even though the person is capable of teaching, he doesn't have much time anyway, but at least ask for the right thing. You can just go and say, Swamiji, so Shankaracharya, I need to learn some more things. Actually, this is what happened. There's an American friend of mine who went to school with me at Piercy. And his name is James. And he had already completed a course with Swami Dayanandji, the previous one that from us. So he was in India for a long time. He's now in Seattle. He's teaching in Seattle. So he was telling me one day, so he was a cook at our place. So Swamiji actually asked many of his former students to join us in finishing all the work that has to be done. Has a cook and so on. So James was the cook. And so oftentimes he and I would go on some walks together, and he was telling me that one time he went to, I think it was Sringeri, and he wanted to have the darshan of the Shankaracharya. We went there and asked him, so Shankaracharya said, tell me about yourself. Who are you? Why are you here? So he was telling him that I am studying at the with Swami Dayanandji in Mumbai at the ashram. So I was asking him, what are you studying? What, so on and so forth. So, and I still remember this so well. So James telling me this. He says at the end of the interview, he asked one of his assistants, please bring me that book. And he said, please read this book. And this is my gift to you. So there, it is, he's not asking for the daughter to get married or litigation or anything. He wanted to see what to do in order to teach. You know what that book was? Panchadashi. I still remember that so well. And I've studied Panchadashi a couple of times, but it wasn't until I saw the detailed commentary from Swami Maheshananji. What a remarkable book it is. Highly regarded. And the Shankaracharya also, because it was towards the end anyway. And so they highly recommend it. What a beautiful book. So all I'm saying is that there are different kind of gurus also. And so you need to find a teaching guru that has the time and the ability to teach. So that's those are the two words, pranipatena. And then the last word is sevaya. Sevaya. So here, of course, the main instruction is that you also have to show commitment by doing some service to the teaching. And this is your return to it. The most important service you can do to the teaching is to be sincere and committed. This is how you show your seva. And of course, if the guru needs something, like for example in the case of Swami Paramarthananda, I don't need it because I have a household and I don't need any money from you. I don't need food to be cooked or anything like that. But suppose that there is a guru, like in the case of Swami Paramarthananda, Swamiji is remarkable. So he does not even have a kitchen. I don't even know whether he makes coffee in the Swami Tattvavidananda has coffee in the morning. I don't even know Swami Paramarthananda or not. But he has no kitchen. And of course, he lives in some kind of a small rental place in Chennai. He doesn't have any money. So then all the students have to make sure that his rent is paid, not much. All the students have to make sure that his meals are served, which is all done, you know. This is seva. You cannot just say, tell that Swamiji, please tell us about Vedanta, but I can't pay your rent and I'm too busy to give you food. Problems. You're a beautiful symbiotic relationship that he has. And so similarly, when I have some needs, you need to anticipate that and make sure that you work with me to make, this is the seva that comes in. And so if that happens, then the jnana yajna becomes successful. In other words, the table is set, all the things are prepared, you should now enjoy and eat. So similarly here also, up to number 33, sarvam karma akhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. So similarly, that jnanam parisamapti, when only comes if you have the right setup, which is tadviddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam. If you do that, then the teacher will strive to make things clear for you. What kind of it? Jnaninaha tattvadarshina. Important verse, often quoted, and talks about both the partnership of the student and the teacher. So I think I'll stop at that point. Yeah, it's already 10 to 11, so what am I saying? I don't have a clock in front of me. Om asato ma satkamaya tamso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnamevavadishyate. Om shanti shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Time for some questions are there, if you have any. Good? No questions? Wonderful. We can leave early.
Actually, I have a question.
All right.
So you said that you are not completely there, but even as you go through your life on a day-to-day basis, you do see some glimpses of reality here and there. If it's an appropriate question, if you don't mind sharing it, what do those glimpses of reality? What do they? Are they experiences? Are they things that are seen?
So there are experiences that you have very clear glimpses that the Atma, that I am the very nature of it being a conscious being, and independent of anything that I see. I am the seer, and the seer in a way that whether there is something to be seen or not doesn't matter. If something to be seen, then I'm a seer. If nothing is to be seen, I'm just pure consciousness. It's there. The thing that in other words, another interesting thing is that if the Atma has three aspects, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, or Satchit Ananda, same thing. So what happens is that the Satyam and the Jnanam become clearer first. The Ananda is a little later, but it comes. And the Ananda is unlimitedness. The joy that comes from it is unlimited. So the unlimitedness of the joy is not there for me fully yet. It is there to a certain extent. But what happens is that the problems and issues of life and so on are not bothering anymore. They are really at the very, it doesn't happen. They might, so for example, if there is a physical problem, like for example in the case of, I had pneumonia a couple of weeks ago, and a very bad asthma. I'm asthmatic. And so asthma was where I was not able to breathe at all. I could not even sleep at night and so on. So the ananda of being not at the mercy of the body is not there yet. I suffered, But even during the suffering, there was no confusion that this is me. It is something that is just going through and so on. But eventually the ananda and the independence is such where the even physical problems don't affect you, just like it happens in deep sleep. So that will come over time. And when it will come in this life or next life, I don't know. So the ananda is the one that takes more time to come in. But as far as the understanding of the Sat and the Chit, that comes much sooner. And you have a clearer idea of that, yeah. Yes, sir.
Verse number 32, 33, essentially those that can be applied to obtain any type of jnana. I mean, that's the...
So let me understand which, you're talking about which ones, 32, 33?
32 and 33, just now which we discussed.
Where was 34? We discussed 34.
33 and 34.
33 and 34. So what about it? Say that again.
Essentially, these are the guidelines of knowing any type of jnana.
So here we're talking about Adhyatma Jnana. Yeah. So sure, yeah, of course. I mean, this whole discussion is about Adhyatma Jnanam. So when you say any type of Jnanam, I don't meaning the Jnanam of physics or no. But of course, elements of that apply there as well, in the sense that you have to have commitment, you have to desire to know, you know why you're doing it. You need to find someone who can guide you. Yeah, so elements of that. But here we are going much beyond that, where we are going through, yeah.
Those are mostly physics materials.
Right. And so those are limited gains with limited, but here we are trying to do something which is, yeah. All right, so we'll see you next week.